Hello everyone, welcome back. In this video I'm going to show you how AWS IoT service works. So if you go to AWS IoT homepage, you will see it offers multiple services under the IoT umbrella. So what I'm going to show you in this particular video is how to work with AWS IoT Core, and IoT Core itself is a big topic to cover in one video. So I'm going to break it down into multiple videos and show how it works. To demonstrate, I am going to use this particular GitHub repo. So this is AWS IoT Device SDK for Java that AWS provides. And if you go to MQTT connection types, so basically IoT lets you connect to the AWS services in multiple ways. One is X.509 certificate based authentication. Other is AWS signature version 4 authentication, which uses MQTT over WebSocket. The certificate is MQTT over TLS. There is another type of authentication called custom authentication that is like completely different than this two, which is the third type of authentication. So we will see all of these in details as we proceed with this video tutorial. But in this video, I'm going to show you MQTT over TLS with X.509 certificate based mutual authentication, how it works, and we will actually do the code, connect to AWS IoT endpoint, publish a message, and then subscribe it. So to do that, go back to AWS Management Console. So for this, you need to create an AWS account. And once you do that, go to IoT service. And you can see there are multiple IoT services that it shows. So just go to IoT Core. And once you go here, you can see that the dashboard has multiple things. So you have monitor that lets you monitor the IoT devices that you currently have. You have onboard, manage, secure, defend, act, test. So we will basically come to this when we actually go ahead and try our actual device to interact with IoT service. But for now, let's go ahead and start creating a device, or as it is called in IoT terms, an IoT thing in the service portal. So it's a counterpart of the actual physical device. So let's go ahead and do that. So to do that, go to the manage tab on the left hand side. Now you can see that there are no things yet, so you can go ahead and create a new thing. So as you can see, it says a thing is a representation of device in the cloud, right? So it's a counterpart of the actual device that exists. So let's go ahead and register a thing. So when you are creating an IoT thing, you can either create a single thing or you can create multiple things. So in this case, let's create a single thing, name it thing1, and let us keep everything as default. Basically, you can give any attributes that you want for this particular thing, but if you do not want, just name it as thing1. Click on next. Now each thing needs to be associated with a certificate, so you can actually go ahead and create a certificate using AWS, or you can generate your own CSR and private key and give the CSR to AWS to generate a certificate, or you can use a certificate that already is with you, or you can create a thing without a certificate and then you can go ahead and later attach it from a different workflow. But for this video, I'm just going to go ahead and create a certificate. And once it is created, you can see there are three certificates that are created. So this is the actual certificate file, this is the public key, this is the private key. Alright, so let's go ahead and download these. So download the actual cert file, download the public key, and you can download the private key. So we would need the private key and the actual certificate to connect to the device. So you do need these three things. So just click on activate. Now this means that your certificate is activate, and then you can attach a policy. So there is no policy as of now, so we'll need to create a thing. So let's just go ahead and say register thing. So thing is created now, but you can see if you go into the thing, go to security, there is a certificate, but it does not have any policy associated with it. So for a device to connect to IoT, you need to define that policy. So to do that, go to secure. You can see there is a certificate already created for us that is associated with the thing, which is thing1. So let's go ahead and create a policy now. So go to policies, let's click on create policy, and let's call the thing policy 1. And this is similar to IAM policy. You need to give bunch of permissions that that is allowed to do on things. So you need to replace this with the actual client ID that you are going to connect it with. So let's just say thing client1, and this is something that you will have to set up when you are actually writing the code for the client. So we will see how that is done. So let's go ahead and select allow, and that's the only thing that we are going to do for now. We would also need publish and subscribe that we will see in some time. So actually let me go ahead and add that so it is helpful. So let's go and select publish. So we'll say topic 1, allow. Let's do the same for receive. Again we'll say topic 1 and allow, and similarly we'll do for subscribe, and here again we will do topic 1. Now notice that in case of subscribe it's actually topic filter and not topic, whereas in case of receive and publish it's the actual topic. So we will use this data when you are actually writing the client, but let's go ahead and create the policy with this detail. So we have now the policy created. So let's go to this policy and let's okay, so let's go to, so there are no certificates attached, so let's go to back to our certificates, click on it, and in actions you can attach a policy. Now you can see that it shows a policy that we have created, and click on attach. So now you have a thing, it is attached to a certificate and the policy is attached to a certificate. So our setup is all done. So we will go back and start writing our client, but before we do that, just one thing that I want to show you is the logging. So you can go to settings and you can set the logs so that the AWS IoT logs go to CloudWatch and you can see it. So you can edit this. So this is disabled by default, so let's just select it as error, and there is currently no rule associated with that lets IoT publish logs to CloudWatch. So let's go ahead and create a role, and we'll say some IoT default role and click on create role, and this should create a role for you, and just say update, and you can see that the role is now created. So now you can actually go to CloudWatch. Actually let me go to IAM first and let me show you that the role is created and what all permissions it has. So go to roles, and you can see IoT default role here that is created, and if you go to let me show you the JSON policy once it loads up. There we go. So you can create log group, create log stream, put log events and stuff like that. So it essentially lets you create logs and push logs to AWS CloudWatch. So that's one thing. The next thing that I wanted to show is the actual CloudWatch, and let's go ahead and see that how it looks. So okay, so notice the region is Singapore. Again, there are not all regions that support AWS IoT, so choose one of them which is nearer to you to avoid the latency problems, but be consistent with whatever region you select. So let's go to CloudWatch, let's go to logs. Currently there are no logs, which is fine, and this is because we haven't actually done anything with this particular region right now. So that's fine. So let's go back to our manage. We have created a thing, we created a policy, we created a certificate, the policy is attached to the certificate, and the certificate is assigned to this thing. So we are all set. So let's go ahead and try to write a client to connect to this. So let's go back to our AWS SDK, and you can see it shows how you can install the SDK. So you can use Maven to give this dependency, and which is AWS IoT device SDK Java. So what you can do is, so I have created a simple Maven application, and if you go to pom.xml, you can see I have added this dependency, which is AWS IoT device SDK Java. So once that is done, you can go to so this is the installation part. You can actually download the jars and attach it if you do not want to use Maven. And once you have done that, let's go ahead and try to use this SDK to connect to IoT service. So this is the piece of code that lets you initialize the client. So let's just copy this, and we will go to this and we will just paste it here. So you need to give client endpoint, you need to give client ID, you need to give certificate file and private key file. So we will see how we can do that. And also it needs two files, which is keyword password pair, which is in sample util, and it also need AWS IoT MQTT client. Now this is something that comes from the IoT SDK, which is fine, but this comes from a file that I have imported here, and you can see it basically says that this two particular files, which is key store file. So if you see here, you can see that sample util.java and its dependency can be copied from the sample source code file. So it's there in the sample source code file, so you can go to sample SDK that is up here, and you can copy those files. So I have done the same, so that's what it is. So let's go ahead and import this so that it does not give us the error, and let's import sample util as well. Okay, so this throws a connection, which is, so let's just throw it for now. So now we need to configure all of these parameters, and finally we will say just connected. Okay, so just to make sure that it actually connected, so that's fine. So what we will do is we will replace all of this. So now to get the client endpoint, you can go back to your cloud thing, you can go to thing, and here you can select interact. You can see this is the endpoint that you have, but this is an HTTP endpoint, so you do not really need ATS endpoint. If you really want to get the endpoint for this, I'll show you a command, but essentially it says you have a prefix, which is nothing but this. Then you have iot.region, which is nothing but AP Southeast 1, and Amazon AWS.1. So what I will do is I will show you a command that you can use to get the endpoint. So you can do AWS IOT describe endpoint, and I will give profile because I have multiple profiles configured, and also you need to give region. So this region is nothing but AP Southeast 1. So let's go ahead and add that and click enter. So you can see that it gives you the endpoint. So you can just copy this, or you can just follow the convention to replace the placeholders. Now next thing that we need to do is replace the client ID. So if you remember our policy, so if you go to security and if you see the policy, you can see the client ID that we gave is thing client 1. So let's go ahead and replace this with our actual client ID. Now remember that the client ID is unique, so you cannot have two connections to AWS IoT with same client ID. So if this does not work, then you may have to add some random number over here. But if you do that, that means that you cannot hard code the client ID here as well. So you'll have to give it a global setting so that everybody can connect. So that's for the client ID. Now you need certificate file and private key file. So let's go ahead and see where we have saved it. So it was in IoT demo. Okay, and let's just copy this files. So we need PEM file and we need the private key file. So let's go to our folder and let's copy the actual cert file and the actual private key file to our source folder. And that is because if you see gets password pair, what it actually does is it tries to load using class loader dot get resource as stream. So it needs to be in the class path, so you just can't give path to the local. But if you do want to have that behavior, you may have to change this code which was there provided by AWS to read it from an external file than from the class loader resource. So once that is done, let's go ahead and replace this. So this is the actual cert file, so replace this with the actual cert file. This is the private key, so copy this and replace this with the private key file. So you have client endpoint, client ID, certificate file, private key, and it says connected. So hopefully this should work. So let's go ahead and give that a try. So run as Java application, and you can see it says connected. Now you can see we did not call disconnected, so it is still connected. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to run this one more time, and since this is unique, it should fail the second time. But before we do that, let's go to CloudWatch and let's go ahead and see if there is anything here at all that is there. hopefully it should not be, because we have set the debug level as error and there are no errors so far. So let's go ahead and run this one more time and see what happens. Okay, so this, okay, there we go. So it says connection lost, right? So it printed connected because it's just a statement, but you can see that it's not able to connect. It says connection failure, and that's because we already created using one. So if you go ahead and terminate all connections and terminate this as well and run it, it should run. But before that, let's go ahead and try to refresh the logs, and there you go. You can see that AWS IoT logs have come, which we created, and you can see it has 2 logs. And if you click on this, you can see it says connection failure, reason is duplicate client ID, right? So that's how you see if there are any issues. So for example, if there are authentication issues, then it will come here. So that's how you see what is going wrong in AWS IoT. So next thing that we are going to do is we are going to do a publish and subscribe. So let's go to that code. So this is again for the signature version 4 method, which uses AWS credentials. So we will probably see this in the next video, but for now we are just going to use certificate. So let's just skip this. The next thing that we are going to do is publish and subscribe. So let's go ahead and copy the publish code. So this publishes to a topic. So let's just import this. And what we will do is, so we need to change the topic to what we have defined it in the policy. So let's go to the policy, which was in IoT. So the topic that we said is topic 1. So let's go ahead and change this to topic 1, and let's change the payload to hello world. Okay. Now once that is done, we would need a subscribe code as well. So let's go back to our SDK and see the code for subscribe. So again, if you want non-blocking API, you can use something like this. This is a blocking call. So to subscribe, you can use this. So let's first copy the class and copy it somewhere outside our public class, and let's just autocomplete this, and we will just print out whatever the message we have received. So we'll say message received, and we'll say message dot get string payload. Okay. And now let's copy the subscribe code. So we need to subscribe before we publish. So let's go ahead and let's just remove this, and we will replace this by topic name that we have, and this was topic 1, and let's use the same QoS value here as well. And so topic name, and it subscribes. And once it subscribes, let's wait for maybe 1 second or maybe 2 seconds before you actually publish, and let's just throw the interrupted exception that it has. So essentially now what we are doing is we are connecting the client. We are first subscribing to this particular topic, which is topic 1, and then you're publishing to the same topic. And our IoT policy actually allows publishing to the topic receive. Basically when you publish, this basically lets others receive. Basically it allows you to send the data that is published to the receivers. So subscribe is that it lets people or the clients create subscriptions to the topic. So let's go ahead and try to run this and see how it works. And you can see it says connected, and you can see it says message received hello world. So let's change this to 103 and let's run this. Again, remember, we are not calling client.disconnect, so it is still running. So you need to terminate it because it will not allow to run 2 clients with same client ID. So it will actually go ahead and show you to, yeah, there we go. You can see 1, 2, 3. Now let's disconnect this, and I'm going to show you one more way in which you can test this out. So AWS provides its own testing portal. So if you go to test, it will connect to IoT device gateway, and let's just put topic 1, which we are publishing to, and let's go ahead and say subscribe. Okay, So now this is fine. What we are going to do is this is the message that it is sending. So you can publish it from here as well, and you can subscribe. So let me go ahead and publish the topic, and you can see it shows this, which means that it subscribed to this. So you can publish as well as subscribe. So what I'm going to do now is I am going to run this code, right? And what is going to happen is it will going to publish hello world 123, which will come here because this is also subscribing. And the second thing that would happen is I would publish something from here, and that should come here as well because we are subscribing here as well. So let's go ahead and run this one more time, and let's see what happens. So it's connected, and you can see message received hello 123, and you can see it also received another message hello 123. So you can, for a topic, you can have multiple subscribers, and you can have multiple publishers, and each message published to a topic, all the subscribers that are subscribed to that topic at that point of time will receive that message. So let's go ahead and publish from here. So I'll say from Aniket, and I will publish the topic. And there you go, you got it here, and you can see it also got in this particular client. So that's how you can create, publish, and subscribe on an IoT thing. So again, like I said, this is just one of the way to publish and subscribe. And if you read this again, this approach uses MQTT over TLS with X.509 certificate-based mutual authentication. But you could use MQTT over WebSocket as well with signature version v4, which we will see in the next video. But essentially, hope you understood how you can create a thing in AWS service, and you can connect over it using MQTT over TLS with X.509 certificate. And this is just Java SDK. Similarly, you have JavaScript Node.js SDK. You can use Browserify to convert it into a JavaScript one. Similarly, you have I think Python SDK as well. So you can use this IoT SDKs to create a client and connect to your IoT endpoints and do your work accordingly. One last thing is that so when we created our thing, so we created a single thing and we gave it some name. Let's call it thing2, and we created one-click certificate creation. So AWS created the certificate for us, but we can go ahead and create our own CSR certificates and upload it here to create a certificate. So we will essentially have the private key file and the CSR file, and the public key will be generated from this particular CSR. So private key will always be with you, but the actual certificate that is created will be created from the CSR that you upload. So if AWS creates it for you, then you can download the private key and the certificate from the AWS portal. But if you are generating your own CSR, then you will have the private key. The only thing that AWS will let you download is the actual cert file and not the private key. So I hope that made sense. Stay tuned for the next video where I will show how to connect using AWS signature v4 method, which uses AWS credentials. So thank you.